All right, everybody, welcome to Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the strategies inside the game of Overwatch. We learn through trial and error in the lab, even if things get a bit crazy and blow up sometimes. We're going to help you brew up some team comp strategies, stir up some tips to play, not to tray, play a little bit better, and hopefully equip you listeners with those instruments to help you gain a strategic edge. This is episode 77 of the Omnic Lab, and I'm your host, Rob May, coming in hot from the rising sun after getting delayed in planes day after day coming home from BlizzCon. So we're going to be talking about Moira and BlizzCon 2017. And joining me, as always, is Andres Gomez. What's up, Andres?
What's up, Rob? Oh, it's so good to be back. We had such a great trip. It was full of stories. We finally actually got to meet each other in person. So, you know, that's an event. I don't know if anybody knows here, but Rob and I had never actually met in person before. Even though we've known each other for years now, I've been working together and all this stuff. But yeah, it was so fun. But I'm glad to be back at the desk here. I'm ready to podcast to you guys.
Absolutely, me too. It was really funny when we first met as well, because Andres was with a few of the members of the Discord community a day earlier than I was, and in typical Omnic fashion, he's wearing his nasty, cool shades, and I didn't even recognize him because I never see him in shades. So I see him, and I see one of the girls is like the only female of our community that was gonna be there. So I just knew. I was like, okay, I know the voice. I know it's a girl in our community. I know who this is, so I'm gonna identify with who I identify with first, and then I'll greet the rest of you and figure out who everyone is. And I just was like, what the heck, man? And I was like, oh, crap, I missed my cue. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, we had a lot of not a lot, we had a few people from our Discord show up at BlizzCon with tickets, and it was just wonderful experience. So I think this week has been a little complicated. We had a lot of things in the works, both prior to that we wanted to do after BlizzCon and during the event, and almost nothing panned out. So mainly because it was our first time and we got media passes, and so we're like running every which way trying to network and find cool things and also experience them. So to kind of give you a brief synopsis of what's going to happen this show is we're going to be definitely talking about Moira and our opinions, because we are a strategic podcast. We're also going to be covering a little bit of Overwatch World Cup and strategy we saw with the spectator system as well. And then we're going to hopefully wrap up a few things about the new map and even mention what it was like at BlizzCon, because it was really cool. And then we're going to weave in a little bit of news here and there. So it's going to be fairly disorganized under the normal scope, because there's so much content in the short space of time. And then we have something really cool for you guys over at patreon.com/OmnicLab. We're going to be pre-releasing our first content for you, which is basically a community spotlight. So what does that mean, Andres? What is the community spotlight?
Yeah, so like you said, while we're at BlizzCon, we had so much stuff planned out, and almost nothing went the way we planned it out. Just because once you're there, there's so many things going on, and we would like be moving from one spot to the other. And by the time we were moving, like 3 other things would happen, and we were like, our attention was just everywhere. But we had some really cool stuff that happened. We were able to record some cool footage over there. We got a few of you guys from the community and a few of our friends on record. We also got to talk to the South Korean team for a little bit and ask him a few questions. And we also got to do some really cool stuff over there. We recorded Pixels with Scott Johnson and Patrick Beja. I know Rob and I were super excited about that. We were not expecting it to happen, but The podcast is out there, so if you guys want to check it out, we talk about a bunch of the stuff that came out at BlizzCon and give our opinions about it. It was a group of about 7 podcasters, all really high caliber, all really people we looked up to. So it was really nice doing the podcast with them. And we also recorded the Overwatch panel for Con Before the Storm. We will be releasing that in our feeds as well, so stay in the lookout for that. It was great podcasting with all those guys, and as you can tell, my throat is still kind of recovering from this whole trip. But yeah, also the community spotlight, we'll be releasing that for our patrons first. It will be a compilation of some of the people we got to talk to over at BlizzCon. A lot of you guys from the Discord, also fellow podcasters and all that stuff. So stay on the lookout for that. And if you're not a patron, you'll also get to enjoy it just a little bit later. So if you want to go ahead and enjoy that, be sure to check us out.
And last up, for our little self-promo type news, Andres got to meet some really cool people that maybe you didn't think were as cool as you thought. And they're going to be hitting us in the feed later this month as a bonus episode. And like we figured it was one of those type of things where it's going to be really tough to schedule. So I will most likely not be a direct piece of this interview, but we will be releasing that. And then maybe my reactions to the audio once it's finished recording. We're going to do kind of a deep dive on what we talked about. So it'll be really cool stuff.
Yeah, we get to meet some really awesome people over there, and hopefully we get some really cool content in the works for you guys.
Yeah, we're really, really pumped at not only the stuff that we have planned and the stuff that we've networked to be, but things that we're excited in the future that we don't even know could happen this year, and just resulting from the networking at BlizzCon could be a great opportunity for us in this calendar year. So hopefully Omnic Lab is taking big strides this year again for you all. A quick bit of news here for you is there is a PTR patch that hit November 6th. This is around the time that we were at BlizzCon or returning from thereof. Basically what they're doing is they're doing a big Mercy change yet again, where she's going from 0 seconds to 1.5 seconds on a cast time on the Resurrection. So it's a big change, which means you can't like really move while you're doing this. And then when you are starting to cast it, the reason I said you can't really move is because now when you start casting it, your movement speed goes down by 75%. So you're moving at about 25% your normal speed while you're casting. And then in the cast time, you can be hacked, you can be stunned, you can be countered, basically. And then in addition to that, when Valkyrie is activated now, basically it removes the cast time off res, and it also removes the Resurrection move speed reduction. So the current iteration of what you're feeling on the regular patch of Mercy will remain unchanged during Valkyrie, but then will receive a significant change while you're not in your ultimate status. And we're very interested in how this will actually pan out. But unfortunately, I feel like we won't really be able to deep dive into this as much as we will feel. It is a significant change. And personally, I think this is a really too far of a nerf, but potentially could be really good balancing. I'll just say my one cent thing, have Andres say his, and then we'll move on. But the thing that I think here is that the cast time and the movement speed reduction together is too much, but isolated could be very good. So, for example, when you're using the cast time, you definitely want the move speed reduction. But I think 75 is way too much. I think maybe 25% move speed reduction may be ideal. And then also you can make the cast time last a little bit less amount of time, considering, you know, move speed and cast time within ping and people's reaction times, as well as how long cast windups are for like hack or throwing the thing could be a little bit too slow. So I think maybe 1 second cast time or 1.25 second cast time maybe is a little bit better, because this feels like 2 seconds with the windup and then the action actually actuating, and then you can leave. I feel like the initiation in and the escapism out is also in and of itself with the GA change of Guardian Angel, where it doesn't reset when you resurrect anymore. That actually balances out way more than I think that it's really showing. And then the last thing is I could also see keeping the cast time at 1.75 or even making it 2 full seconds and then getting rid of the cast move speed altogether. because then you're balancing this around your GA ability of diving in, diving out, so that it's up by the time you're done, and you can cancel and stuff. But that's just my thoughts on that. Andres, did you have anything to follow up here?
Yeah, sure. I think, yeah, like all the stuff that you're saying are kind of like nuances to the change that they could make. But I think that in general, I know it may be an unpopular opinion, but I personally like the change. I think that you're taking it in the right direction, where they're basically trying to make Resurrect feel less of free get out of jail card kind of thing, how it is right now, right? Like no matter where you die, Mercy has a pretty good chance of getting to you, resurrecting, and then getting out of there. Sometimes if it's like really risky, she does get punished. But sometimes even like when there's like 3 enemies next to the other person, Mercy can still get away with it and like go in, resurrect, get out of there. Um, and that
And she can
feels
still do that with Valkyrie, which is the good thing.
she can still do that with Valkyrie, you're right. But then at that point, she's committing her ultimate to it. And, like, you know,
Exactly.
at that point, she's supposed to feel strong, right? Like, it's just like the
Yeah.
state that she's on right there. But she's just getting away with it a little bit too much, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this
That's
change,
fair.
it'll be more of like if somebody in your team gets picked in the back line where it's safe to you, no problem. You still resurrect them, keep the momentum going. Nothing changed there. But where it's gonna change though is if you're in the heat of the battle, if you're in the middle of the enemy team, you're gonna have a really hard time. Where it's gonna be a really high risk move for you to go in there and resurrect. So you either gonna have to have the support of your team, maybe your tanks going up with you, or at least your team being able to move forward for you to get that res up, or the attention is not gonna be able to be on you, or you're gonna have to be in a safe spot. So it adds a little bit more of a control to this skill, right? Like you
Yeah.
have
I
to
just feel like
think about it a little more
sitting in a
carefully.
single spot for almost 2 seconds, like basically not moving in a competitive game at like higher elos, like even in platinum and diamond and masters GM and professional games, like standing still for 2 seconds is that detrimental that I don't think it's going to be used
Oh,
at all.
we can all
But
agree,
it could be saved for
agree
the
on that.
ultimate.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
Like it's bad to be in that situation, but I think
Standing
it's
still.
on purpose, right? And it's what I was saying. Like now it's about the nuances. Like this is a change
Right.
that's dragging in that direction, but how much is too much, right? Is this gonna feel like
Mhm.
it's gonna be too much? And we have to see that, right? Like they have to test it out. They have to see how it works in pro play. They have to see how it works on the
Sure.
ladder and stuff. And if it's too much, I'm sure that they'll reduce it, right? Like if it's happening that Mercy's getting killed in situations where maybe she shouldn't be getting killed because she's so slow, it takes so long. Maybe it is time
Right.
to reduce it. But I think we have to see it first, right? The change has to
Yeah.
be developed for a little bit. It just can't be like, oh, I'm so used to the old version and now I suck with this version. It's like, no, take your time and like realize when the new good situations and bad situations are, and then we can make a good judgment call on it.
Right. Okay. Next change is a little bit less minor and a lot less discussion oriented, which is Anna's rifle change is now going to be doing 70 damage, which was prior to her second damage nerf that she's ever received. There's a lot of uprise in this months ago. And honestly, I felt like the community was kind of wrong on that one. I felt like it was okay, but Anna's healing is still unchanged. This just makes her a little bit better in dueling. But now that Mercy's ultimate is super powerful, and even with the current iterations of her resurrection chain, she's still a very powerful healer. The introduction of Moira into the dynamics of the kit, of who you can choose, making Anna a little bit of a different pick is going to be very, very cool to see. And I played her on PTR just today, and it feels so good to be able to finish off targets. And the one nuance I wanted to highlight here is that maybe you guys don't know, but when you fire the round into an enemy, it actually ticks 3 separate times. So like you shoot somebody the injection round as an enemy, and it'll have that sound where it goes like zip, 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 and then it drains them. Well, each one of those is a part of the total of 60 or the 70 damage, depending on if you're playing PTR live, of how much of that is ticking damage per round, which means when you're shooting an armor, you're reducing that by half or a max of 5, right? So you're reducing the damage of that kit a lot just from having this be 60 or 70 damage. So if somebody's giving Torbjorn armor to people on the enemy team and you're just trying to simply duel that Genji is trying to destroy you, or the Winston that's coming in you, it's really hard to mess with them. So this change is actually exponential in that way. So I'm really excited about this change. I don't think there's really much more to say on that besides that Season 7 is also live and you can do your placements. So good luck out there this season, guys. Remember, these are abbreviated seasons. They're shorter, but you're gaining more for each win with your competitive points. So get out there, save up for those Moira Golden wrist guards. All right. I think it's time, Andres, to talk about BlizzCon. So, first time, first media badge. First time meeting me. I know, I'm sorry, but what do you think, man?
Man, what an experience. You know, like those things where everybody always talks like really good about the event and there's always like so much hype going around it, and there's a part of you that is like, maybe they're kind of exaggerating a little bit, you know, probably because they went over there or something. But then you actually get to go and you're like, holy moly, they were not kidding. This is awesome. I think that the thing that I liked the most was just a sense of community. I felt like a fish back in the water, right? Like I felt like I had found my crowd. Like I had always been searching for it. Like everyone there is super into Blizzard games. Everyone there is into esports, into the geekiest things, but also everyone there is like the nicest, most intelligent people in the world. Like everyone there is just so cool. They got some cool jobs and they're all like super invested into their hobby and their passion. To some of them, their career, because like you're walking down the aisles of BlizzCon and you see both gamers, you see dads, you see streamers, you see YouTube content creators, cosplayers, you see voice actors, sometimes like artists, developers, artists. Like it's like the whole shebang, right? Everyone, it's all kinds of people all over the place. And the best thing of it is that nobody there is being like, oh, I'm the shit over here, I'm not gonna talk to people.
They're not out of place.
Exactly. Everyone there is just like super willing to talk to you no matter who they are. They're super nice and they just want to meet other people and be friends. So that part was like super incredible to experience it. Not to mention all of the events are like top tier, right? Like the quality of production
and they're all packed.
They're all super packed. We were so glad we got the media badges because that did allow us to skip a lot of the lines and stuff. But even then, even for us, we had to like wait in line.
I got locked out of the arena a couple times.
Yeah, like the last day, there were so many people in the Overwatch arena that they were even like turning media people. I was like, no, I'm sorry, it's just too full. And we're like, no, we want to watch. Fortunately, they had like TVs all over the place, so honestly, you could watch the match pretty much from anywhere you were. But yeah, the event itself was super awesome. I think that one of the biggest highlights was definitely that USA versus South Korea match. Man, that was so exciting. We're like in the pits. So hype. Yeah, we're in the pits.
Andres and I bought jerseys like right after opening ceremony. We're like, we got to go right now.
Yeah, that was really cool. Watching Jake and the entire team, Ruckus, just like hold their ground against South Korea and almost taking away the match from them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I'd have to say I agree with Andres that one of my top 3 things of BlizzCon was watching USA versus South Korea live while they're there, like having ZP and Hex in the same room as, you know, Flower and Jake and Ruckus and Fact Fiction and even Toby. Like Toby is an incredibly good Mercy player. I don't know if you guys noticed, but wow, that dude can play. And then Rouge Hong on Ana, and oh my gosh, it's just like insane to watch. And it was really enjoyable, I think, more than anything, to kind of go up one more stage from just like enjoying the hype of good Overwatch. But just being able to be in a row with Andres and Blevins, where Andres and I are like breaking down things while we're watching it. Just like, I don't think anybody is realizing like there's a kill feed on the right side of the screen, and Andres and I are just like, oh my gosh, Ruckus killed the Tracer again, and like nobody's cheering, and we're just like sitting there like losing our minds. It's like, This must be like the higher tier level of play where we can like understand what's going on better than kind of the typical player. But I think that's also really telling because I did talk with a few people who noticed the kill feed a lot better, but maybe they didn't understand what the impact of it was. You know what I mean? Like they're noticing it because the new spectator, which is a great step in the right direction. But I think furthermore, Andres and I really, really enjoyed seeing the new spectators, seeing the new, third person smart cam, seeing the top down view. We were like freaking out when they finally showed it. We're like, oh, this is so cool. Like you can see the dynamics, people jumping up, high ground, low ground. You can see it. There's actually health bars on the ring around the characters, which is super cool. We even we caught IDDQD, coach of Team Sweden, out in the lobby, and caught him for a few seconds, and he confirmed one of the suspicions that we had, which was that this is a spectator only thing, which means all of the teams, all of the coloring, all of that is only for spectating. It's not for the players. Players are just seeing standard skins, all the regular stuff you see when you're playing. So it's really, really cool to kind of just like we have a question. What are the pro players seeing? It's like, oh, snap, there's a coach. Let's go talk to him. Just having that flexibility and like seeing him. I ran into poke lulls from coach of Team Canada like 4 times over the course of the weekend. And Andres and I ran into Jake like 2 or 3 separate times. It was really cool.
Absolutely.
I don't
Let's
know.
talk about
awesome.
that the new spectator changes for a little bit, because
Sure.
I thought that was a huge improvement from the previous one.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely some iteration that needs to be done. But things, for example, the kill feed. The kill feed was so easy to follow. And it does make you think a little bit, like watching Overwatch takes a minute, right? Like you have to almost like learn how to watch Overwatch. It's like a mini skill you have to develop. And like playing the game a lot helps with that, obviously, because then you know how to digest the information that is coming at you better. But for people who are just getting into the game, I was thinking about is like, man, what about that parent that is like with their kid at that tournament and he hasn't watched Overwatch before and he's trying to keep track of what's going on or like make sense of what this is. And it's kind of hard to follow. The spectator did a great job of differentiating the teams in general. There are still some colors that are kind of a little bit contrasting, like when you had like the light blue and the white, those could still be a little tricky to tell apart.
And the green and the white I felt was a little tough too.
Yeah, but when you have the red, for example, red versus white, that was like a huge stark contrast. So those were like really easy to tell. The South Korea versus USA match was like really easy to tell apart too, which was really nice. And same in the kill feed, it's so easy to differentiate when you have like the red versus white or like the blue versus white in the kill feed. Like you can immediately tell what team is ahead.
They have a box around it now too.
Yeah,
they actually highlight the kill feed sections by box color. So if Raucus on Team USA is home and Korea is away is always white. So if Raucus kills the Tracer, then you're going to see a red box with all of the information in it. And then if the Tracer from Team Korea, I don't know how to say his name, it's like Sabe or something like that. Sable kills, Raucus, then the feed is going to switch the roles. Like yeah, something like that. My Korean is really bad, but the box is going to be white, and then it'll switch like the order, just like the typical kill feed. So and so did this ability, and that killed so and so. But the whole thing is going to show you who is doing the action. So I thought that was really, really polished.
Yeah, that part was really nice because just by the colors, like you didn't even have to read names or anything, but just by colors, you would know what team was ahead, right? Like if there was like 2 picks and the 2 of them were red, you're like, oh, all right, like South Korea is up. Or if they were like 4 picks and there was like 1 blue, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 white, you're like, all right, they're even. Like they got 2 and 2 from each side. So like the visual feedback from it was super nice, super instant, at least in the kill feed. And that was really nice. I think a few of the people were complaining about the fact that a few of the spell effects were colored into the team, and that makes it kind of like weird to watch sometimes. A lot of people were saying, for example, the healing, the the orbs from Zenyatta, for example, when they were in the white team, the orb would be like whitish and stuff, which makes it kind of hard to see. And to be honest,
Everything else is white.
in situations like that, like if you see a yellow orb on the red Genji, that already is enough to tell you that is an allied health thing on the red team. You know what I mean? Like you don't need the orb to also be red. I think that if you understand the game, you can kind of understand that already. But I don't know if they're like trying to test it out. But for certain effects like healing, I just don't see the point in coloring them. You might as well just leave them yellow no matter where they are, because you want to see the healing effect more than anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they also like this is something that Andres is not just mentioning as something that both of us noticed. Like this is something we were talking about pretty much the first iteration of it that we saw until the end of BlizzCon. Andres and I were like, man, I can see this as being a big issue actually. You know, it's like too much uniformity is too much. You know, it's not it's not actually clarity at that point. So they maybe need to tone it down. And this is actually the same thing that we got in an interview with South Korea, and they said the same thing. Honestly, that we were like, what do you guys think of the spectator? And they were like, I think that especially with the healing and the beams on Mercy, you can't tell what she's doing because both the damage and the healing beams look the same. So, and they just use that again. This is a very quick interview. It was like last game of the day. They're super tired, so they probably had more things to say. And we're also speaking through a translator, so keep that in mind. It's not like the only thing they didn't like with it. It's just one thing, and they used Mercy as a key example. I'm sure there's other spell effects and things that are issues. And then Andres and I, after we heard that, we were thinking even more in line with Moira, a duality character. That could be very confusing with how the orbs work. They're both healing, they're both damage, they tether to both things differently. The healing beam is like a spray, and then the drain is different. So like if all of that is uniform color, then we might be in trouble, because then we're not really seeing what's actually going on. And if you didn't know, all of the abilities and all of the damaging spells or gun blasts are also uniform. So the muzzle flashes from Tracer's guns to the rounds actually flying through the air and hitting you are also the color of the team. And the one thing that was also really odd that I did notice afterwards was that all of the names are in white, not just the away team. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to proceed with this. Again, we don't want to spend too much time on this because this is such a huge thing, and we got a lot of ground to cover today. But overall, everything about the system is a step in the right direction. Literally every piece.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that they can all be improved.
Yeah,
but
like at this point, it's just more of a matter of like, okay, let's keep iterating a little bit.
Tweak.
Where do we back down? What things are too much over here? But in general, this is a great change, and I'm all for the new team uniforms and all the new skins that are coming with it. It gives the game so much personality, and not only that, it really connects it to the competitive side of the game. So I'm really excited for all of that. The new spectator, especially the top-down view that you were saying, the new map. That is such a great tool to be able to see team positioning and team formations, how they move.
Chess match.
Flankers that are trying to do. It's just like such a cool thing to be able to watch the teams from that perspective. And the new third-person spectator camera, I actually didn't realize how helpful that was in the actual World Cup. Like at the time, I wasn't really thinking about it, but they actually used that camera extensively during the whole broadcast. Especially when you had those tracers trying to like flank in the back, or Genji's ulting with their sword. It was such a huge help to be able to keep up with those players and make it in a way so that it wasn't like all over the place, super jittery and stuff. Because one of the things is, let's say when you're watching Shadowburn go with his Genji, and if you're watching first person perspective, sometimes his movements are so fast and driven by intuition and muscle memory that not a lot of them are kind of confusing, right? You're just like, whoa, how did he know that kind person
just back out of the cockpit a little bit here?
Yeah, but being able to like have like that third person camera on it and being able to follow what he's doing in a way that is
and
not
it being
jittery.
Smooth.
Yeah, and it being smooth more than anything. Like it really allows you to like enjoy it, you know what I mean, and be able to really tell, oh wow, he's doing all this stuff, and you get it from a better perspective, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing about this is the instant replay, which means you don't miss any moments. It is really good. However, especially during the high octane games, it's really tough to find a moment where you can do this unless there's an actual team wipe and you have to wait on it. So this is something that I'm not sure that Overwatch is actually going to be able to solve. I think that this is just going to be something that they have to use sparingly.
Very sparingly.
And they're going to have to improve where they follow the action regardless. But
you know what would be really nice? In between rounds. Like, there's a lot of downtime in Overwatch is in between rounds. Like, during the round itself, it's really hard to have a moment where, like, nothing is really happening.
And highlight reels, too.
Exactly. But if they were somehow be able to take, like, some of the best plays from the game, save them till later, once the game is over, there's usually like a good 5 to 10 minutes before like the next one starts, and if they could just like replay those and analyze them from different like angles and all that stuff, I think that would be really cool and
like
more
half times.
more like respectful to the players, because there was a couple times that it did happen where they were doing the instant replay and they had to like cut out of it super fast because like the match where the fight was already going, and like I don't know, like Sinatra was already like on top of like one of the supports. Is like you can't miss that.
Yeah, especially in the US game, because there was a moment where they wanted to play one but they didn't. Or I'm just maybe presuming a little bit here, but basically the team USA got wiped, and there is one player that just spawned at spawn and was coming back, but Sinatra's still alive on Tracer. And Sabe is also alive on Tracer, and these guys are going at it 1v1, even though the fight's technically over because they're trying to get them staggered on both sides. And you, in those kind of moments, you don't know that those are going on, or if you don't know those are going on, you might be running an instant replay. On the counter side, the instant replay is really good because it means that it's always running, so you can always have that moment available to you. And second, you can actually move around during the instant replay. You don't have to be in the cockpit. You can be third person, you can be free cam, and you can make it slow-mo. So all of these really cool features about the instant replay make it really cool, highly viewable, highly replayable, and also something that you can mix and match if this was in client for highlight reels for maybe your promotional content. Yeah, but we got to move on. We're about half hour in. I actually think we're moving pretty well, all things considered, but we got to keep it going. So let's just keep this paired with Overwatch League, since they talk and overlap quite a bit. I will say that the one thing about the color palettes that started up, a lot of people were wondering, is if they're going to be available as skins. We actually didn't get any news on this. There is no news about the skins being in-game beyond the spectator modes for what you're going to be seeing as a viewable experience.
So there's no official news, but there's hints on it, right? Like Nate Nanzer. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Nate Nanzer.
Nate Nanzer. He, in his panel of the Overwatch League that he did on BlizzCon, he did allude, like eventually, once he finished like saying all of this is all the team brands and stuff, he did mention that he wants to find, or they want to add, a way for people to be able to support their teams directly in game and with their colors. So
yes,
even though they didn't leave any other details, it's almost obvious that they want to somehow include those in the game, because once they're in the game, like, why would you not, right? Like, why would you not like sell them as team merch? Like,
right,
they already know people would jump on that so fast. So we are almost 100% sure that they're coming out of skins.
Yeah, I think it's kind of not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Andres and I were even talking about some really cool ideas that we personally had, which was talking with Blevins too. We were just saying, well, why not, when you start selling merch, if you buy merch, especially if it has a specific player on it or a specific team attached to it, maybe not like a USA jersey, but something from, you know, Houston Outlaws or Boston Uprising, or, you know, whatever team that you like to support. You get the merch, and then you get a code with your merch to get a pack of away or a pack of home jerseys of all of your hero rosters. It'd be basically just a color skin palette that you could just apply to all of your heroes if they have a certain, standard skin on instead of in a legendary. Because I don't think they're going to let you modify the legendary skins because that's not how the spectator mode works and what the current palettes are right now. But if they did something like that for the legendary skins, that would be very impressive, I will say. But
I
it
know
does sound like
legendary
a lot of work.
skins are probably gonna be a separate thing at this point, more of a
Right.
cosmetic differentiation. But that would
Yeah.
be a really cool idea, honestly. If you could buy a
Yeah.
team's jersey and the team jersey comes with a code that allows you to unlock the uniforms for that team in the game, that would be really awesome. My guess
Even if
is
it's
more,
just a spray, to be honest, that would be
yeah,
cool.
that'd be cool. Or if you at least unlock like the characters that player plays, like how they have them defined by like they're either
Like a role.
support or like flex or tank and stuff. Maybe you can
Oh,
unlock
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
set
That'd
of
be cool.
characters. But to be honest, the way I think they're gonna do it is more of a package deal, right? Like you go into the store now,
Yeah.
and there's gonna be like a package for the Houston Outlaws or one for Dallas Fuel, and if you buy it, it's gonna come with the team uniforms for them, and maybe like
Everything.
a spray with their like logo and some stuff. And yeah, I don't know how the price of it would be. Hopefully, it's not too high because I would want to get them all. Maybe hopefully it's like
Well,
$10 or something like that.
I know that in-game and out-of-game merch is something that they did mention way back in Overwatch League when they were talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to make money. So we do know that something in-game is going to be of monetary value that you can buy to support your team. We know it's coming. We don't know what it is. We're starting to get into that. But anyways, this is what we got for now is speculation. So hold on to your butts, as they say in The Lost World. Or not The Lost World. What am I saying? Jurassic Park here. So, but what we do know is, I'm just gonna run through this, and then you can comment at the end here. Overwatch League website has been updated. 12 teams, 12 brands, and 12 rosters. Each of these is going to be split into 2 divisions of 100, the Atlantic and Pacific. Within the Overwatch League, there are currently 17 different countries represented with 113 players. In the Atlantic Division, London, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Florida, and Houston. In the Pacific, Shanghai, Seoul, Los Angeles 1, Los Angeles 2, so Gladiators and Valiant, San Francisco, and Dallas. So it's basically 6 and 6. And then if you want to know further, there's more stuff on the panel, but basically the preseason is going to be December 6th, and the regular season starts the 10th. And there's actually a schedule. I was going to officially read it off here, but just go find it in the show notes. Go on the website. It's all there. There's no sense in me just
Honestly,
it,
the schedule is pretty much nonstop. Like from January 10 to like June, there's basically going to be games almost every week with a few weeks downtime here and there. But it's going to be packed. Like this is going to be the year of Overwatch esports. So, and my guess is they're going to televise all of them too. So honestly, if you are into watching Overwatch games, you are in luck, my friend, because we have a stampede of matches coming our way.
So let me give you the specifics. Every team plays 2 games a week. There's going to be 4 game days in a week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So all of the times are also going to be shifting so that you can have EU, NA, North America, South America, EU, and Asia time zones. So basically, to give you an idea, I won't tell you the team names because it is irrelevant because you can just look it up. January 10th, for example, is a Wednesday. I'm sorry. So it's not Sunday. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, Wednesday through Saturday. That's right.
So Wednesday is 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. And then Thursday, the 11th, is 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., so a little bit earlier. And then on Friday, it's going to be the 12th. It'll be 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. again. And then on the Saturday will be 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and 3 p.m. So that you can have a little bit more of the different size there. But there's always going to be 3 games in a day. So 3 games in a day, 2 games from a team per week, and 4 total days where games can be played. And this is super exciting. But January 10th is going to be opening day, and then it will run until June 16th. And then July 11th, so basically fast forward after that time, there'll be like almost a full month of off season before playoffs. 11th will be the playoff date, and the championship will be actually outside of Los Angeles for an even bigger venue, which is super hype. There will be basically 5 weeks of total gameplay, and what they're also doing is they're reducing the total map pool down to 8. So you can only pick out of 8 teams, and you can narrow down what teams are going to be preparing for, so that they can help scheduling
per
and
stage,
travel
right?
breaks.
And that's important to mention. There's 5
Yes,
stages or
per
4
season.
stages?
What do you mean?
Because I think there's 5 stages to the regular season. Here, let me pull it up.
It's 5 weeks, and I think there's 4 stages.
There you go.
There's
Yeah.
4 opportunities during a season to come back. So basically, come back or maintain your current position at the end of every stage. Basically, 4 different stages during the 5-week period of your record. You can win like first place prize of $125,000 based on your performance. And again, out of that stuff that you win for the team, is 50% of that goes directly to players as a minimum. So orgs can choose to give them more money depending on their performance, which basically means about every season is half $500,000 in prize. So that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it's really nice how they structure it. I really like how it's like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and each stage has 5 weeks. Each stage has only 8 maps that you can play on them. So it's like a season reset almost every stage. And each stage has huge prices. So it's like if one team does really bad in one stage, it means that they can strive to just do better at the next stage. And they have 4 chances of like really coming back. I really love the way that they like structure it, because it gives teams so many chances, and it gives us, the viewers, a lot of time and a super big sample size to really decide who is our team, right? Like we're really gonna get to see these players in all kinds of places and positions. They're gonna play each other several times. So even if like Dallas like loses against San Francisco or something, like there's always that next game where they can like really come back. They have time to analyze the other games that those teams are playing too. So they have plenty of time to like refine their strategies, and the prize pools are spread out so that there's an incentive in every stage for these teams to like really compete at their best. And not only that, this is just the regular season, right? After this, we go into the playoffs and the grand finals. So it's gonna be like, dude, it's gonna be such a cool year for Overwatch Esports. I'm super excited and ready for it.
Yes. And then there's a couple other nuances of no region locking, so that any player can play for any team regardless of where they're from. I'm just double checking a couple more of my notes here. The best overall records of the season will progress to the playoffs. I'm guessing that's going to be similar to how group stages to semis or quarters, semis, and finals worked for the Overwatch League. There are for the Overwatch World Cup. Last up is there will be merch. There will be merch. And they're also, they're going to be promising more EU teams and Asia after season 1 will be joining. So what merch are you going to get? Jerseys, home and away. Hats, socks, joggers, which if you're like me, I didn't know what joggers were. That means sweatpants. You can get these type of clothes on December 6th. The jerseys will be announced and released, ready for sale. They did announce what they looked like. You can go check it out on the website. Their new website, overwatchleague.com, just got revamped. You can see teams. You can see rosters. They're going to start doing match statistics and match games you can actually watch on the website, not just on Twitch. And they're going to be coming out with a companion app where you can favorite a team and you can follow that team. You can get notifications pushed to your phone. You can add games to your calendar. You can watch games in the app. And they're saying if you link it with your Battle.net account, you can even see how close your stats are per game to theirs, which sounds really fun.
You got to give it to them. They are making this really easy to watch and follow, which is needed, right? Like you don't want to make it hard for your viewers to find you or to figure out the schedule. And like they did it. They gave us all of the tools. I'm super excited for this thing to get started.
Okay, so let's cover real quick here in the next 10 minutes or so what's next in Overwatch. we have a brand new nap. A brand new nap you guys can go take. I'm just kidding. You guys can go run over to Blizzard World. This is a brand new theme park oriented map for Overwatch. It is a hybrid map. There is a point where you can capture, and then you have to move the payload. So what do you do in the map? Well, the map is broken up into 3 areas. The first area is basically a Warcraft theme. The second point where you're pushing the payload is a more StarCraft theme with a pylon and a high ground that's really, really cool. Lots of side rooms inside the center and on flanking routes. And then you move into an inside area that is Diablo themed, and there's a huge pit on the side, and it's really, really cool. Lots of good booping technology for you guys playing Lucio out there. And your Winston ults will have a good spot. I think that's it for the map. We didn't get to test it as much as we wanted to. However, the map is very cool and very interesting. And in concordance with releasing a Blizzard themed map that represents the 4 other titles that are not Overwatch for the game, they are now going to use that as cannon fodder to release other Blizzard game themed skins to the standard loot box, guys. Not 3,000 price skins anymore. Andres, what skins are we getting?
We are getting 8 new skins. We're getting Magni Bronzebeard for Torb, for those World of Warcraft fans out there. Immortal Orisa, which comes from StarCraft. Nova Widowmaker, which I'm actually pretty excited because I love Nova, from StarCraft as well. Blackhand Doomfist, which looks super scary. Like, that skin looks so badass. Also from Warcraft, we got Barbarian Sonya from Diablo, but Butcher Roadhog from Diablo as well. Ecopone May, it comes from the cinematic. At first I was trying to be like, wait, what character is she supposed to be right now? And then I realized, oh, that's the cinematic, of course. And Crusader Reinhardt, which again, from the cinematic, we were getting his skin with awesome hair.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about that cinematic, if you'd like, unless you want to stay with the skins before we run over to that.
Yeah. Okay, one thing before we move on this is the new Blizzard World, the map itself. I love the flavor. I'm a big fan of all of Blizzard's IPs. But I will say, I wish they had released it as like a deathmatch map or something like that, as like another chateau or something with like the whole vibe. I don't know, like the Blizzard World map just kind of like, it takes me out of the story a little bit. Like all these other maps have like such a huge iconic setting, and it like they drive the story forward a little bit, and then we kind of like, we just get Blizzard World. And like, I guess their way of like sneaking in is like, oh, but Overwatch is not part of that universe or is not part of Blizzard. So they're going on
vacation and shooting people? Like, it kind of like breaks my immersion, man.
So I know this is like what a role player over here, but it does kind of break my immersion.
I'm just role player confirmed, guys.
And the map itself is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it just feels more like a Heroes of the Storm map than an Overwatch map.
Yeah, it does.
And the map itself, like the locations and everything, like it feels really good. The map is designed very well, but just the whole theme around it, it just feels a little bit out of place for me.
I will say that a lot of the folks in the area of Overwatch fandom that also bleeded over to the Heroes of the Storm, even if Heroes is their main game, they're like, why don't we get that? Because that looks awesome. And then when they ported Hanamura over to Heroes, it's terrible. You know what I mean? So it's regarded as honestly one of the worst maps they've made for Heroes. And it's like, this is just an easy one for you guys to make, you know? But on top of that, despite the immersion break, despite the overall flavor kind of seeming a little off, personally, I think the competitive nature and how the map was constructed for play is really good. Like, really good. It's a super dynamic map for hybrid. It's a very different style of approach. Like when you're approaching the point itself is completely obstructed, very similar to Volskaya, where you go through a choke and then you have to go around to get there or over. I thought that was super interesting, and I really dig it. And then again, we mentioned other areas of the map, but The skins look insanely talented.
The skins look pretty awesome, not gonna lie.
Yeah, not insanely talented. Sorry, the artists are insanely talented to create these because they have very cool dynamics to call back to the IPs. Like Blackhand, I'm sure has some sort of lava animation when he punches things that is very Warcraft feel with Blackhand. Nova, I'm sure has some spell effects that are very cool to the ghosts. I know for a fact that they mentioned Butcher and Barbarian by name of having cool effects. Like there's a little crystal inside of Sonya's gun. The charge area is actually the rage meter that you have when you're playing barbarians in Diablo.
Oh, cool.
Butcher, when you use take a breather, is actually a potion. And he does have a voice line where when he hooks somebody, it doesn't say get over here every time. He sometimes says fresh meat. And it's like really cool stuff. So I'm really excited about these things, and I really hope that Crusader Reinhardt has something where he says, "I love the flow of the wind in my hair," or something like that.
As he charges, that would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty rad. But furthermore, we did get the Reinhardt thing for the cinematic, and boy howdy was this as moving as it comes. I have not been so close to crying as I was since the Bastion trailer, let me tell you. So this one is a very moving event. It talks about how Reinhardt used to be, and potentially could still be, a little on the arrogant side with his mentor and fighting in the Omnic Crisis inside of Eichenwald. I'm sure you've all seen it probably more than once at this point, so we won't belabor it, but man, watching this live, having Darren DePaul in the arena where Andres and I were currently sitting on the floor was so cool. There's really nothing that you could say to describe it, to be honest. It's just a very moving piece.
They really know how to touch those pressure points, right? Those emotional pressure points. They have found the formulas to get right through them, and they do it every time with their cinematics. I love all of them, and this one, I think this one was such a great thing. We talked about it with some people at BlizzCon, but the fact that we knew about Eichenwald, the fact that we had been able to play the map, the fact that the map revolves around getting to the castle where the armor of this guy has been sitting there for this long time, right? Like we've been seeing Reinhardt's mentor kind of like sitting in that throne for a while now since Eichenwald came out. So we had sort of a very loose backstory. We knew that the Omnics had attacked. We knew that the Crusaders were the defenders of Germany, and they kind of like resided in that castle. But then being able to kind of like take a really good sneak peek at that backstory of Reinhardt, of where he comes from, of his roots, right? And it in a way, it shows the maturity of that character, how he has evolved through the years without even like telling you too much of the story. Like they just give you 2 points of his life, and with that is enough for you as the viewer to be like, wow, this character has had a long journey ahead of him, and like he used to be a different person. He's endured some loss, and like the Omnic Crisis has really like wear down on him, and you can see like the change in demeanor of the guy, and how he respects the word of his mentor, right? Like he carries on the legacy of his guy, and that's why he takes a call, even though we have Torbjorn's daughter next to him telling him like, listen, this is a very bad idea. And like by the context of the story, you can probably tell that she's kind of like her apprentice, trusty, like they have a very close bond. So here's this person that is very close to him telling him like, hey man, I don't think you should do this. But being able to have all this backstory in him, and then being like, listen, I gotta do this. This is my calling.
Yeah,
I gotta go. Dude, it was like, hell yeah, that embodies like the spirit of Overwatch, right?
It was very, very cool. There's something that you guys are definitely not going to miss, especially if you're holding on to those virtual tickets out there. I will not spoil it for you, but the people that are involved in a voiceover panel, I think it's called the Voices of Overwatch, in the virtual ticket include Darren DePaul, which is the voice of Reinhardt at Point, Johnny Cruz, which is the voice of Lucio, and then I cannot remember the rest of their actual names, but or besides Jen Cohn, who is the voice of Farah, is also on this panel, alongside Widowmaker and Anna and Doomfist. And let me tell you, the guy that does Doomfist is an incredible actor, incredible voice like control. This guy is inside the brain of the charismatic Doomfist. And after you listen to this panel, I promise you, you will no longer be upset that Terry Crews is not Doomfist. Promise. This guy is unbelievable. And they were saying that there's this one thing that he said where they were like, okay, so what would you say if, you know, kind of opening up a meeting with Doomfist in the room? And he goes, it's like, come over here and take a seat. No, sit down. And it's just like, ooh, it just gives you chills because he's just like this authority, and the charisma behind Doomfist is so good. And they ended up putting that in the game, the sit down soundbite. But there's a few other Q&As on the What's Next panel that I will highlight. There's a lot of stuff I wrote down in the show notes. If you guys want some Easter eggs, you can go there, but I'll highlight 4. Internally, they're talking about readjusting the naming of the categories.
Oh, yes,
AKA
please.
supports, tanks, defense, offense.
I wonder if they're going to try to add flex in there. Because if you notice in the Overwatch League, they have a symbol for flex guys. I don't know if they're going to call it flex or something else, but I wonder if they're going to try to incorporate that in there.
Yeah, I also don't know if they're going to make it like more nuanced instead of like general. Maybe they'll like make it super general, like you're talking about flex, or they could go super specific, like builder and sniper and ranged and melee, stuff like that. But I don't know. The other thing that they're going to do is they said they had a question about what are you guys doing to handle the seemingly mobility creep or increase in mobility for being as an important factor in the game for heroes. They said we were trying to actually not make every single hero have this mobility thing involved, aka Orisa. But obviously we have heroes like Sombra and Ana, very different dichotomy. Anami's very immobile. Sombra is very, very mobile.
Zenyatta as well. McCree is very immobile in his own right.
Yeah. So they're commenting on maybe are they going to bring other people up to snuff? Are they going to try to find a good happy medium? And it sounds like they're going to try to find a good happy medium within the mobility.
And also,
next thing,
adding, I'm just going to interject real quick, but adding heroes like Moira, for example. Moira is a great hero, anti-mobility heroes, like guys like Genji, for example. So adding heroes like that to the game might also
counter,
like help the balance of power there of mobility versus non-mobility.
And you always have the hack and the stuns to counter the mobility. So if a hero typically is very immobile, they usually have something that balances that out. That's very powerful CC, aka Ana with Sleep Dart, Zenyatta with just crazy good utility and damage. It's just very glass cannon type support.
And range.
Moira has a very
give
quick
those heroes
escape,
like
but also
a chance to be away from the battle.
Right. The other thing is every layer that the team adds to restrict matchmaking will increase queue times a lot. So in saying this, the context was basically asking if they're doing a internal testing of role queue. So what he's saying is that they've been finding that players are more willing to wait if the games are A, balanced, and B, in line with something that they want. So they're looking and exploring more options in this way, but they're very vague in how they answer the question. So there you go. The next thing is looking for group systems, ? They said, we know the community wants to find folks with certain roles, and we don't have any details to announce yet, but we are talking about some of these things internally. Talking means not developing, just so you guys are aware. It goes talking, developing, and then they go radio silent for a long time, and then it releases, if that's the trajectory. Right now, talking could mean yes or no type stages, not like we're actively building this way. So there you go. I think that's all of the other things that we had there on the new game content, the What's Next panel. I'm quickly running through some things before we run over to our Moira section. Oh, 2 things real quick. Game night, a little bit of a mid-roll ad. Game night is most likely going to be on November 24th. Right now, this is our tentative date, so don't shoot us in the foot next week if we say it's not. But this is our tentative date, is a Friday night. If you guys want to come hang out, I think that's what a lot of people are hoping is going to happen. So we're going to see if we can set that to be a gig. And the last thing is our Twitch feed has a brand new update that Andres has been taking advantage of right now, and I'll let you make the announcement.
We are very excited to finally announce that we are Twitch affiliates. We actually got the news a week before BlizzCon, but we were so caught up with planning BlizzCon and making sure that everything was gonna go right that we didn't get to do much with it. But this week we are back, and we are back full force on Twitch. I've been streaming as much as I can, as much as my time permits. But we had a great session yesterday with a bunch of people showed up and hanged out with me while I played my placement matches. I ended up at like 3,300, so a little lower than my previous season, but that made sense since I hadn't been playing that much. But hey, I still got to hang out with a bunch of you guys. You guys got to actually see me play. I know you guys get to hear me talk a lot about the game, but don't get to see me play that much. So it was actually fun spending some time with you guys. And the day before, or a few days before, I was also streaming, and we had our friend Arge. He
Nice.
did a little host there, and his we had like good 30 viewers that like switched over and hanged out with me for a little bit. It was a little intimidating because I usually don't have that big of an audience, but I'm getting a little better at playing and interacting with the chat and stuff. I'm not super used to that stuff, but hopefully that will come with time. So yes, stay tuned because we're going to be streaming a lot of our gameplay. I know that, Rob, your interconnection is not the best one over there, but I know that whenever you have the chances, you'll be able to stream as well. But I'm trying to make it a very consistent thing.
Yeah. Yeah, if I do game nights or free-for-all, deathmatch, or just some fun quick play stuff, I'm more than welcome to do that. And it's not that I want to hide my rank, because I'm more than willing to tell you, but dang, this internet does not support 200 ping plus with, the whole gig with streaming on top of that. But I will say that now we have another channel for you guys to support us if you don't do the Patreon gig. Or if maybe you do the Patreon gig and you want to support us another way. So we got 3 new subs before we even launch the stream. We've got the Switch Fox, which is the guy that we use for Omnic Meta, who just put up a new Moira ability stat guide, which we'll be using on the website, on his website, as well as comparing that with the Gamepedia for our Moira section today. We also have another friend of the show, Boom Bat, is also one of our admin. He is a mod, or a subscriber. And then live during the show, Bodega Rat X just subscribed right after the announcement. So thank you guys so much for the new sub. I do have an emote that I made, and it should be approved. It's just the Omnic Lab symbol with the hype button. I'm not 100% sure if it's working yet, but we'll see if we can work that out. We're going to be working on getting a good, solid emote that we can promote with this content. I'm really excited that we got affiliate. We're looking towards improving that in the future. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the community and the Overwatch news section.
Yeah, I'm just super excited. Like every time we get a new sub on Twitch, I get super excited. I'm like, oh yeah, we got a new sub. That's awesome. So thank you guys that have already supported us. And for those of you that maybe have some Twitch Prime subscriptions lying around and you haven't used, be aware that you get a free subscription to any streamer that you like. So if you haven't used yours and you don't know where you use it, think about us. We are right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to do that every month, you actually do need to renew it. I know that a lot of streamers like to say this, but when you do the Twitch Prime, it does not renew the next month. If you have Twitch Prime, you have to actually manually go into all the steps there. Let's talk Moira. Boy, howdy, this Irish geneticist has come in hot for this new patch and was one of the biggest hype reveals that we've seen in a long time. We've been needing his support. It was the prediction that I had said pretty explicitly, not only that we were getting a new hero, that it was going to be a support, and it was going to be a potential main healer. And all of those boxes were ticked officially. Despite maybe some people not believing that she is a main healer, I'll make it work, I promise. Just so that my prediction's right. But Moira is a scientist above all else, and she pushes that agenda in the lore. If you want to know more about this, you can definitely go watch the What's Next panel. You can talk with Michael Chu about their archives and maybe even explore that some more on the mobile site or on their website in the virtual ticket. So we have the Gamepedia stats spread. It's not 100% accurate. And we also have the spread of what Switch has compiled from just some information we pulled from the Streamer Showdown, from Moon's stream that he did live at BlizzCon. And so we're trying to balance both of those here with some of the testing we did also in the testing booth. So what are the abilities? So the first ability is Biotic Grasp. It is a right click and a left click, or primary fire, secondary fire. The primary fire is going to be a heal that looks like mace spray. And the secondary fire is going to be something like a long tether similar to Symmetra with a 20-meter range. The Biotic Orb is her next ability. It is the E on keyboard, which I believe is ability 1, I think, on consoles. And this has 2 abilities similar to Zenyatta's orbs. One is going to be healing, and the other is going to be damage. The healing orb does a max of 300 healing with about 75 healing per second on average, and will also bounce off of anything and penetrate all barriers. Same thing with the damage orb. It will do, but it will do 200 damage with 50 damage per second, and will also bounce. And both of these will bounce for about 8 to 10 seconds before they dissipate, or until the totality of what is contained in them, 300 health, 200 damage, is expended, which means it can tether to different people like Orissa's tether when you're yanking people. So it'll slow way down. It'll start the ticking of the damage. And again, it has a max total that it can use. So if you throw the damage orb against 3 targets and it does 200 damage, it'll split the damage across all 3 targets and spend up faster and deal damage spread out. Same thing with the heal. The Fade is her like Genji dash Reaper thing with invisibility like Sombra and blink like speed. So it's a big hybrid of abilities, but ultimately I think you want to look at this like a Reaper phase with invisibility and hyperspeed, like basically, and it's really short. So it's a 0.8 seconds, 6-second cooldown. You're untargetable, you're invisible, and you can dash almost 20 meters in like a second. So it's really, really fast, and you can control it. You cannot go to high ground unless you're jumping mid-jump, and it's super hard to time, but you do retain the momentum if you can time it right. And it does clear debuffs, which means you can escape Get Gravitons and stuff, but you cannot escape Junkrat's Tire yet. Or not Junkrat's Tire, Junkrat's Trap. And the last is Coalescence. This is her ultimate. It's a firing straight Kamehameha beam or special beam cannon if you're a Piccolo fan. And it does 120 damage a second. Sorry, 120 healing a second and 70 damage per second, which is not great. To give you an idea, Hanzo's Dragons does 200 damage per second, over double. So if you're trying to use this in the Graviton, you want to get nano boosted, you're better off nano boosting a Hanzo. So just keep that in mind. This is not meant to be an offensive ability, although it can be. It's great to use it as such offensively, but again, you want to use it for pushing power and making your team more durable, not necessarily dealing damage. You do get a slight speed increase with this, and it has a 8-second duration and a 30-meter range. So you can be really far back when you're using this. There's a lot more details with all of the kits. I don't want to bore you with the specific stats of everything, but the healing is really strange to me. It feels really weak. And then I started reading some things, and it said like 50 on the Gamepedia and 80 in what they were saying on stream. It's the same as Ana, but it didn't feel that way. But I think if you look at the breakdown, there is supposedly something that says, quote, after she stops healing, there's a heal over time for a short duration that heals another 50 health over the course of 3 seconds. So let's say I tag Andres on his McCree with, the 50 healing per second that I get. And then it gets more. So the healing over time then starts, and then I'm still holding down my clicker. So the healing still applies. It still looks like it's going. So that's why they're saying it's about 80 healing per second, although it feels more like 50. So it's a little strange in how it works because it also tracks like a May spray, similar to how the freeze effect works. You can spray somebody down, you can let go, the spray is still traveling and applying the freeze. So you can still maintain it that way, which means you're going to want to be more disciplined when you're using the heal to almost pump it or kind of spray it across a couple targets, because when you tag somebody, you're going to get a little bit of healing over time. You can maintain holding it and not expending your resource bar as much. Mm-hmm. And that's the next thing that I'll have Andres talk about, which is the resource management and how you're managing your damage with having a no meter thing on no ammo with your Biotic Grasp Decay.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I just want to talk in general too how the hero feels. We got like a lot of how the
Yeah.
abilities work and stuff, but the hero itself, it's a very interesting take on a support. I like it from the get go, just like the flavor of it is really nice. I like that she is a villain support. It's like the first villain support that we're getting for the roster. Everyone else is a very upbeat, positive kind of person for the support, except maybe for Symmetra, but she's a different kind of story. She's not like a bad person, but Mora is. And like her playstyle is very interesting. Just like Rob was saying, the heal itself doesn't have a huge range, so it kind of motivates you to be really close to your teammates. And also, it's you have to track it, right? It's not a heal like Mercy that you just kind of like aim it at somebody and it's healing. You have to keep track of where your allied hero is going and stuff. So it makes it a little bit harder to heal. The range is not super great, so you have to be kind of like right up front. And I think it's one of the reasons why they decided to add a heal over time. As long as you tag somebody, they keep healing. Because if not, I think it would be super complicated for people to kind of like be able to keep up with their team and be able to heal them all the time. The orbs feel really nice, definitely for close quarters. They're easily avoidable unless you're in a corridor or somewhere where you don't have a lot of escape routes. They do bounce off walls, so especially the closer the quarters they are, the easier they will be to keep on route and for heroes to escape them. Your allies can also play around the orbs, staying near or fighting near where your orbs are going. Genji, for example, can keep a lookout on whenever you fire the orb. It's a good time for him to dash in since he knows that he's gonna be getting healed as long as he's near the orb. So there's a lot of like team play that goes on with that, which is pretty nice. And like you said, Rob, you have to manage your ammo with it because you don't necessarily have ammo, you just have a resource bar similar to how D.Va Matrix works, at least for your heal. Your damage is basically non-stop. You can just keep damaging for like a really long time. Um, but your damage replenishes your healing. So it's kind of like this like give and take. Like you want to interweave the both of them so you don't run out fully out of resource too soon and then you're unable to heal your tanks or heal whoever needs a little bit of health. The damage itself, the tether that you're talking about, is really interesting. It has a really,
It's
really
really
long
low.
range. It's not the most damaging ability in the world, but it's very lenient, right? As long as you have um, like a decent range on the person and you're aiming towards them, you will tether them and they either have to lose line of sight of you or go out of range. But like I said, the range is really high. Like when you first try her, you're kind of like have that Symmetra mentality where you think you have to be relatively close to them to be able to do it. But honestly, like test it out yourselves because this thing
21
reaches
meters.
very long. Was that?
21 meters.
Yeah, 21 meters. There you go. The thing is like larger than Zarya's beam when she's like fully charged. So it's quite long.
Yeah. And you really can't kill many things if they're getting healed. So even if something has a Zen orb on it, you're not killing that target. Your damage is not high enough to do anything. Furthermore, if you're trying to duel a tank, it's not going to be working out very well for you. You're probably going to be losing that duel.
The
So
nice thing about it
if
is
you're
that
trying to
it's
help,
very nice support damage. It's like you said, it's not like a main source
right.
of damage. She's not bursty at all, how a McCree or a Genji can be. So you're definitely not an
Mhm.
assassin in that sense of the word. But the tether is really amazing against things like D.Va, for example, where she can't block it with your matrix. With against Genji, he cannot deflect your tether either, or even tracers that are harassing you. She kind of tends to be able to keep up with these heroes because even though you do have to track him somewhat with your right click, is not super hard to do, right? As long as you kind of keep it on the ballpark
Right.
of them, you can keep the
And
beam
you,
on
if your
them.
orb is up, you can even use the orb in a confined space to bounce off of walls on your current position with the healing to make sure you're able to maintain your health and fight back.
Hmm.
Or if they're like engaging you because they're like fairly half HP, 75% HP, and you're full health, and they're coming in on you, you can use your offensive orb for damage and the tether, and you can double your damage that way. So you can be pretty surprisingly a bursty hero against those kind of targets. But
Mm-hmm.
again, even when you're doing these type of things against tanks or heavily armored targets, you're not going to be doing enough damage, and it's better off to use your Fade to split out of there. I will say that the Fade feels extremely powerful. I think that this is maybe the strongest mobility thing in the game besides Recall from Tracer. I think that this is amazing, and it's a 6-second cooldown. The orbs have a 10-second cooldown, and like we said, the other stuff is just like a resource meter or a recharge. And the important thing we haven't mentioned yet is the Biotic Grasp. When you're using the damage or the decay, you're actually draining about 60% of the damage dealt as health back to you. So if you're trying to heal through something, you can generally use it as just like staying alive rather than dealing damage. If you look at it that way, where you're not like trying to duel somebody, you're just trying to like tether them as you're running away. It's not a bad idea to look at it that way. So you're getting about 30 health per second. You can throw the healing orb on your escape route. You can follow the orb. You can still deal damage. You can stay alive. Give your team a little bit of time because you don't have any CC in your kit. Just healing, just damage. So the only thing you have is the escape. So you want to use the escape, try to buy yourself some time, and get out of there.
One thing I will say is that her design seems very intentional to make her a frontline support. You want to be up there with your team, and she has the kit to do it. Her heal is very spammy, so the more people that are in front of you that you can spam, the better. Her tether has a big range and can like reach through shields and stuff, so you can be behind your front line, kind of like helping spam with that. Your orbs, the more people that are near you, the better. So it kind of like, I think it incentivizes a composition that can kind of cluster up and cause some damage that way, kind of like Death Volley. But it can also be great. She can also be great against Death Volley compositions because of the same kind of traits. And I would say
the way the spray works.
Yeah, and her ultimate as well, right? Like being able to heal all of your team while damaging the other team. She fits like right into that. And her Fate ability, like you said, is one of the strongest like damage avoiding escape mechanics that we have seen so far in the game. You can basically get out of anything. Is very responsive, so you can even wait till the last second, kind of like with deflect. Like you wait till like the verge of the second where they're about to shoot at you, and then you deflect them back. Her Fade feels like that too. Like you can skill people with that. Like if you see the hook coming at you,
have it up so much. It's just like Genji Deflect. You're like, he has it every time. It's kind of the same
exactly.
thing
As long as you're kind of like weaving it right and you're timing your stuff right, like you'll have that Fade up almost every fight. So huge mobility mechanics. You can chase people down too if somebody's like really low. You can dive in with your Genji and kind of like follow up with him, or with your Tracer. Or Winston as well. You can follow up with him. It's not advised that you use your Fade at the beginning of the battle, but if like you just need to chase down like some stragglers at the end of the fight, it's great for that as well. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting to see where people take it with Moira. She's definitely not gonna be a main healer like Ana or Mercy are, right?
So?
Like, well, I don't think she's gonna be. Her healing is gonna be as powerful. I think she's gonna be more in the level of Lucio, maybe. That's kind of how the way I see it. Like,
really?
it's still like very powerful heals, but the thing is that being able to just single target heal like you do with Mercy, or like the huge amounts of healing you can do with Ana, I don't know if she's gonna be able to keep up with that just because of her range, right? Like she has to be so up close, and especially with compositions with high mobility, right? If you're playing with like Genji and a Pharah, I don't see her meshing with those compositions as well.
Okay. I mean, I can kind of see your point, but after like playing with her a little bit more on PTR this week, I feel like she is maybe not a wise choice for solo healing, but if you're running two supports, I feel like she can be the primary one. Like if you're running Zenyatta or you're running Lucio, I think that she can be the primary healing role.
Oh,
think that
sure,
that's
but I
actually
mean, people
fine.
run Zen and Lucio in the same comp as well, right? Like that's still like a viable choice.
Yeah, but you also kind of sometimes now that Ana's changed, you can probably run Ana Lucio or Mercy Lucio. Like you can still run those comps as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like Moira is still pretty good in that stretch, and she does heal a lot. And like I was running an Ana Moira comp in PTR, which again, still quick play, not the greatest way to test, but man, if we were running 3 tanks against a Reaper and nothing was going down, it was just terrifying.
Yeah, I can
Um,
see her
and and
like that, like a Death Volley
combining
with
that
3
with
tanks that are very resistant. I could see her being very good at that.
combining that with Ana's grenade is actually
Oh,
disgusting
yeah.
because because you have to remember, guys, like we said this before, but it is super important. Every ability in Moira's kit can go through barriers except her primary damage. So her spray, you can heal your enemies through an enemy Reinhardt, or you can heal your allies if they're on the other side of a Reinhardt barrier. Ana can't do that. She has to shoot into the barrier until it's done, and then she can heal your allies. Winston barriers too, Orisa barriers too. Coalescence goes through everything, hits everything, damages them, heals them. And the orbs, everything goes through. And then on top of that, I was reading up on this some more. Genji can only deflect the grenade, the orbs. That's the only thing he can deflect. He can't deflect your damage. He can't deflect coalescence. He can't deflect your healing. It's really strong. Now, there are some bugs right now. You can't heal Mei while she's in her ice block for some reason. I'm not quite sure if the Fade is necessarily supposed to get you out of Graviton. I'm not sure if it's actually supposed to get you out of the Junkrat trap, and it's not right now. Like I'm not quite sure. I think there's some still kinks in the system they're trying to work out with the kit.
Yeah, it's
But
gotta figure out. I think it takes you out of Graviton. It doesn't take you out of the Junkrat tire. Or
well,
trap, I think.
both of those statements are correct currently on the PTR build, but I'm not sure if that's working as they intended. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what their desire is with the kit just yet. If those are
Gotcha.
bugs, if that's how it's wanting to be played or not. I will say if you're gonna play Moira, how do you play her? You play her as a support. You're not playing her to deal damage. You're not playing her to get those 1v1 sweet duels. When you're dealing damage, you're dealing damage for the purpose of finishing off a target with another player. You're isolated, or you're just trying to get your heal back. And when you're healing, the only time you're clicking and holding that sucker down is if somebody's really low. You're trying to heal multiple targets, and you're actually going to need to play your angles a lot like Ana. Ironically enough, because if you're healing targets, you can actually heal through them. Ana plays it so that she can stay very far back with her angles, whereas you're playing your angles in the fray so that you can maximize healing 2 targets with 1 spray, so you're not losing it out. And you don't want to use your healing all the time. You want to make sure your heals are on point. You're not healing people just to top them off. That's not how this hero works. Let your Lucios do that. Let your Zenyatas do that. You're the one in the fray to make sure that they're staying alive, not the ones that are just topping them off, because you have to deal damage in order to heal. So you have to keep that in mind. And then I'll say that if you want to maximize the kit, you need to, like Andres was saying earlier, Fade and your orbs are going to be clutch. You almost use your orbs on cooldown, I've been finding, or you're not really doing anything. Because the orbs are the only things that you have to worry about on a kit where you're healing something or you're dealing damage. And you're not having to actively use your drain to replenish your heal. You can just use it. And you get a lot of heal or a lot of damage, and these orbs give you a lot of your ult charge. I was finding my ult charge really slow if I wasn't using my ultimates, or if I wasn't using my orbs properly. And
Yeah,
the orbs
I
have a
agree.
really long, infinite range until the 10 seconds are up or until they're expended. So feel free, like when you're running in to a match or running into an area, they have a 10-second cooldown. You have about 5 seconds before you're going to be there. Just throw your orb in there. Healing if your allies are in there. Damage if they're not in a tight space. It's kind of like avoiding face checking an area where you're not sure if an enemy is yet. You can throw it in there, see if it deals damage. Oh, there's an enemy in there. I can duel them, or I can take somebody with me. I can give information to my team, or my team's in there and I'm not there yet, but my orb travels faster than I do if it's not tethered. So those are some tips that I would say out of the gate. And then again, use Coalescence for the primary source of healing and engaging, not necessarily dealing damage and finishing. But that's just my initial things. Andres, do you want to give any quick tips on what you've experienced?
I would
with
say
Moira?
just keep an eye out on how you fire your orbs. They can be great tools, but they are also very easily avoidable. And once you fire them, they're out there and you have no control over them. So if you miss your orb or you fire in the wrong direction where nobody ends up being, you kind of wasted the ability. So just make sure you're firing it in places that make sense, in places where you think people are gonna converge, or choke points or entry points where the enemy team has to go through to either avoid you or engage you, or likewise if you're like places where your teammates are going to be standing at. Because if you fire the orb in the right place, it can be an amazing asset for your team. If you fire in the wrong place, you basically are out of a big chunk of your healing or damage for like a good 10 seconds.
All right, that has been a whirlwind of a show. We're really excited to release the community content to those of you on Patreon a few days early. Andres will be compiling that as well, and also a really cool interview later this month for you off the regular scheduled programming. We want to make sure that you guys do your Season 7 things, but also if you guys have a moment, please leave us an iTunes review over at our iTunes page. We got 4 new iTunes reviews since we left for BlizzCon, so thank you so much to Kaio Gucci from US, Jive Turkey Jim US, and I cannot say your name, GDN Finn CG US, and Ginger Gorilla on also US. Thank you guys so much for your iTunes reviews. It helps us tremendously find our stuff. Also, special thanks to a few other people, IDDQD for talking to us, as well as Scott Johnson and Patrick Beja. Thank you so much for having us on Pixels. It was a real blast. Go check that out. It's episode number 69. I'll put that in the show notes for you. And special thanks to our Diamond patrons who are continually supporting us. Chris DePlaya, we had the pleasure of meeting. Ginger Sasquatch, Good Apollo, we also had the pleasure of meeting at BlizzCon. Great Root Bear, Lysome, Magic, Not Muad'Dib, RC Crispy, Ricky Ticky, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Silverback, Tragic Zach, and Trinium. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. We really look forward to having more patrons in the future. And you guys are also on the regular patrons. Thank you guys again for helping make our dreams come true of being able to go to BlizzCon. And remember, your continued support does still help us. This is stuff that's hitting credit cards, guys. Like, not something that like 1 month of support works for. Like, we are still paying off things, especially on my end, for the traveling costs. There are some things I have to eat on the Japanese side and some things I have to eat on the US side. So it's a little sketchy for me. Andres, why don't you let the folks know where they can find you personally, and then I'll run us through the Omnic Lab and my personal stuff, and we'll get out of here.
Sounds good. You can find me over at Twitter at iPlayGames, and you can also find my music blog over in SoundCloud/iPlayMusic. Also, a couple of shout outs to a few people. I want to give a huge shout out to Blazing Bob from Watchpoint Radio, and also Melarina from The Cavalry. Both of you guys were super, super awesome people. Thank you for being so awesome at BlizzCon and embracing me in your family. Also, big shout out to Slambo and Tangsword, Totemly Drunk, all the people that we met over there, Yanthrax, Chris DePlaya. We also got Apollo, and also from the bottom of my heart, Justin, Icy Sorrow and her boyfriend, and Justin Aydmara from the Discord. Thank you so much. You definitely made this trip a possibility by allowing us to stay in your home and saving us probably like over $1,000 in like hotel fees, because those hotels were
probably
so expensive. So thank you so much for embracing us there, man. We will always have a special place in our heart for you, and for all of you guys that we met over at BlizzCon that became kind of like our little family while we were over there.
And additionally, I'd also like to thank Tim and Icy for being mods that were there, and also meeting Switch was fantastic. And
Switch,
we're
yes.
Really sorry if we missed your names. We also, I think Kyle was also there. He's new to the Discord, and we also had a couple people like Chips. I think he goes by Chipmunk in the Discord. He's a PS4 player and Destiny guy I played with before. He's really great, and they came out to the World of Podcasts. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It was a real pleasure to meet you, and we're looking forward to next year already. Looking forward, if you guys want to find the show, you can find us on all of our avenues at our website at omniclab.com. If you want to look for any and all of the links, just go to omniclab.com/links. You can find the links to the Discord community that is exploding lately since people knew that we were doing planning there for BlizzCon. You guys can go hang out there looking for group, play some Destiny, play some Overwatch, do whatever you need to do. Hang out in the Discord. You can find us on YouTube. We got merch on our merch store. You can click all these buttons on that omniclab.com/links. If you guys want to help us out, you can send us questions in our podcast questions channel in the Discord, or you can email us. If you guys also want to support the show, like we said earlier, patreon.com/omniclab, or you can go to the stream at twitch.tv/omniclab and sub to our new affiliate program. Those are ways that you can support the show. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram with the tag NotRob. You can also see some of the pictures from BlizzCon there. You can even find my Twitch page at NotRobMay. I've also been streaming some Destiny 2 because it's not as straining on that game if you screw up with the ping. So I've been trying to stream that as I can. And then if you guys like Hearthstone, I will be doing a full recap of BlizzCon on the Hearthstone side tomorrow morning. But it will be a little bit later for you guys getting it in your feeds on VelonsChosen.com. I have another side project called Concept Craft. I released a quick episode right before BlizzCon. You guys can go check that out at conceptcraft.libsyn.com. Thank you guys for joining us on episode 77 about BlizzCon 2017. And Moira, we'll see you guys inside the game. And remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself. Walk in harmony, my student.
Thanks for everyone in the chat. You guys keep it lively in here. I wish we could interact sometimes a little more with the chat during the podcast, but if not, I'm pretty sure it would end up being like a 2-hour long podcast. Hey, but that's why I'm streaming lately. I'm gonna try to stream a little bit after this, so thanks everyone for coming. Catch you guys later.